The year was 2347, and humanity had been part of the Galactic Concord for almost 200 years. In all that time, humans were never treated as equals. The older races, species that had traveled between stars for thousands of years, looked at humans the way a grown man might look at a child trying to sit at the adult table. They were tolerated. They were sometimes even liked. But they were never respected. Commander Laura Mitchell had served in the Earth Fleet for 20 years. She had seen this disrespect every single day of her career. When human ships docked at alien stations, they were given the worst berths. When human ambassadors spoke at Concord meetings, the older races barely listened. Humans were new to the galaxy, and the galaxy had decided they did not matter very much. Lavra stood on the bridge of her ship, the horizon's edge, watching an emergency transmission play across her display screen. The message came from the Sar Prime, a neutral world that belonged to no empire and no alliance. It was a peaceful place, home to 40 million civilians from dozens of different species. And it was being invaded. The Kovani Dominion had come from beyond the edges of known space. They were conquerors. They took worlds and enslaved populations and cared nothing for treaties or laws. Their fleet had appeared without warning and begun its assault on the Zara Prime. The people there were screaming for help. Lieutenant Daniel Park stood beside Lavra, his face pale as he read the reports. "The Valkyrie are pulling back," he said. "The Mordax too. The entire Concord fleet is retreating." Lavra could not believe what she was hearing. The Valkyrie had the most powerful ships in the galaxy. The Mordax had the largest fleet. Together, they could have crushed the Corvani without breaking a sweat. But instead, they were running away. Why? She asked, though she already knew the answer. "The Concord voted," Daniel replied. "They decided the risk was too great. They are not willing to start a war with the Corvani over a neutral world." Lavra felt something cold settle in her chest. 40 million people, families, children, and the great powers of the galaxy were going to let them die because fighting was inconvenient. She walked to her command chair and sat down slowly. Around her, the bridge crew waited in silence. They had all heard the transmission. They all knew what was happening. "How many human ships are in range?" Laura asked. Communications Officer Amy Torres checked her console. 17, Commander. "Including us." 17 ships. The Kovani had brought at least 50 warships to the Sar Prime. 17 against 50. Those were not good odds. Those were suicide odds. Laura opened a channel to Earth Command. The face of Admiral Grace Holloway appeared on screen. Holloway was 60 years old, with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. She was known for being practical, for making the smart choice, even when it was the hard choice. "I assume you have seen the situation," Lavra said. "I have." Holloway's voice was flat. "The Concord has ordered a full withdrawal. All member species are to avoid engagement with Corvani forces." "And Earth?" There was a pause. Holloway looked tired, but something else burned behind her eyes. Something that looked like anger. "Earth has received the same order," she said carefully. "We are expected to comply." Lavra leaned forward. "Admiral, there are 40 million people on that planet. Civilians, non-combatants. If we leave, they will be taken as slaves or killed. I am aware of that, Commander. I have 17 ships. My crews are ready. We can buy time for evacuation transports. We can save at least some of them." Holloway was quiet for a long moment. Lavra could see the conflict on her face. Following orders meant safety. It meant keeping Earth out of a war it might not win. It was the smart choice, but some choices had nothing to do with being smart. "The Concord will condemn us," Holloway said finally. "The Valkyrie will call us reckless. The Mordax will say we are fools. Let them say what they want. Holloway almost smiled. You know, Mitchell, I have spent my entire career following the rules. Playing politics. Keeping humanity safe by keeping our heads down. She shook her head slowly. I am tired of it. I am tired of watching stronger species walk away from people who need help because the math does not work in their favor. She straightened in her chair, and when she spoke again, her voice was iron. You have your orders, Commander. Engage the enemy. Protect those civilians. Show the galaxy what humanity is made of. Lavra felt her heart pounding in her chest. Understood, Admiral. Horizon's edge out. She closed the channel and turned to face her crew. They were looking at her with a mixture of fear and determination. They knew what she was about to say. They knew what it meant. Set course for the Sara Prime, Lavra said. Maximum speed. Signal all human vessels in range to form up on our position. Daniel stepped forward. Commander, the Kovani outnumber us almost 3-1. Their ships are bigger. Their weapons are stronger. The tactical computers say we have less than a 12% chance of survival. Lavra stood and looked out at the stars beyond the viewport. Somewhere out there, millions of innocent people were waiting to die. They had called for help, and the galaxy had turned its back on them, but not humanity. Not today. I know the odds, she said quietly. I have known the odds my entire life. Humans have always faced impossible situations. We've always been smaller, weaker, less advanced than the challenges in front of us. And we have always found a way to survive. She turned to face her crew with fire in her eyes. The Concord thinks we are insignificant. The Velthari think we are children. The Kovani probably do not even know we exist. Today, we teach all of them a lesson they will never forget. Amy Torres looked up from her console. All 17 ships are reporting in, Commander. They are with us. Lavra nodded. She thought about what they were about to do. They were going to fly into a battle they could not win, against an enemy they had never faced, for people they had never met. Every tactical manual in the fleet said it was madness, but some things were more important than tactics. Some things were more important than survival. Send a message to the Corvani fleet, Lavra said. Tell them that the Earth vessel Horizon's Edge and her sister ships are en route to the Sara Prime. Tell them that if they want those civilians, they will have to go through us. Daniel smiled despite himself. They are going to think we are insane. Good, Lavra replied. Let them underestimate us. That is the last mistake they will ever make. The Horizon's Edge jumped to faster than light speed, and 16 other human ships followed. They were flying toward almost certain death. They were flying toward glory. And in that moment, none of them would have chosen to be anywhere else. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity was capable of. And nothing would ever be the same. The Kovani fleet commander was named Vethkaros, and he had conquered 12 worlds in his career. He had never lost a battle. He had never even come close to losing a battle. When his sensors detected 17 small vessels, dropping out of faster-than-light travel between his fleet and the Sara Prime, he laughed. What species are these? He asked his tactical officer. Humans, Commander. A minor race from the inner territories. They have been part of the Galactic Concord for approximately 2 centuries. Vethkaros had never heard of humans. He pulled up their file on his display and scanned it quickly. Their homeworld was a small blue planet called Earth. Their ships were considered outdated by galactic standards. Their weapons were weak. Their population was tiny compared to the great powers. Why are they here? He wondered aloud. The Concord has already retreated. His tactical officer shrugged. Perhaps they did not receive the order. Or perhaps they are simply stupid. Vethkaros smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. It does not matter. Destroy them quickly. I want to begin landing troops within the hour. The Kovanni fleet turned its attention to the 17 human ships. 50 warships against 17. It should have been over in minutes. It was not. Commander Laura Mitchell watched the enemy fleet approach on her tactical display. The Kovanni ships were huge, each one carrying enough firepower to level a city. Her own vessel, the Horizon's Edge, was less than a quarter of their size. All ships, this is Mitchell, she broadcast to her small fleet. We are not here to win. We are here to buy time. Civilian evacuation transports are launching from the planet's surface. Our job is to keep the Kovanni busy long enough for those transports to escape. Captain Nathan Cole's voice came back over the channel. He commanded a squadron of 6 Interceptor-class vessels, the smallest and fastest ships in the human fleet. Understood, Commander. My squadron will run interference. We will keep their fighters off your back. Good luck, Nathan. Luck is for people who need it. We have something better. We have stubbornness. The battle began. The Kovanni opened fire with their main weapons, massive plasma cannons that could tear through armor like paper. But the human ships did not fight the way the Kovanni expected. They did not form neat lines and trade shots. They scattered. They weaved. They moved in patterns that seemed random, but were actually carefully coordinated. The Horizon's Edge dove beneath the first volley of plasma fire, her engines screaming as Laura pushed them past their safety limits. Lieutenant Daniel Park called out readings from his console. Enemy cruiser on our port side. They are trying to bracken us. I see them. Helm, take us under their belly. They cannot depress their main guns that far. The ship rolled and dove, passing so close to the Kovanni cruiser that Laura could see individual hull plates through her viewport. Human weapons were not as powerful as Kovanni weapons, but they did not need to be. At this range, every shot counted. Fire everything, Laura ordered. The Horizon's Edge unleashed a barrage of missiles and kinetic rounds directly into the cruiser's underside. The Kovanni vessel shuddered and began to list. Smoke and debris poured from a dozen breaches in its hull. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human ships danced around their larger enemies, striking weak points and retreating before the Kovanni could respond. It was not a fair fight. It was not even a conventional fight. It was something the Kovanni had never seen before. Vethkaro stared at his tactical display in confusion. He had lost 3 ships already, and the humans had lost none. That was impossible. These were supposed to be primitives. These were supposed to be easy prey. They fight like insects, he growled. Swarming, stinging, refusing to stand still. His second officer spoke carefully. Commander, perhaps we should adjust our tactics. Their ships are smaller and faster than ours. If we spread our formation, we might be able to catch them in crossfire. No, we will crush them through sheer force. All ships, concentrate fire on the largest human vessel, the one they call Horizon's Edge. Kill their leader, and the rest will break. The Kovanni fleet focused its attention on Laura's ship. Suddenly, the Horizon's Edge was taking fire from all directions. Her shields flared and failed. Her hull groaned under the assault. Shields down, Daniel reported, his voice strained. Multiple hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. We are losing atmosphere. Laura gripped the arms of her command chair. This was it. This was how it ended. But then Nathan Cole's voice burst through the static. Not today, Commander. My squadron is moving to cover you. Get behind us. 6 interceptors streaked across the battlefield, placing themselves between the Horizon's Edge and the Kovanni fleet. They were tiny ships, barely a tenth the size of the enemy cruisers. But they fought with everything they had. Nathan's ship took a direct hit that tore off its starboard wing. He kept flying. Another interceptor exploded completely, its crew of 12 dying in an instant. The remaining 5 closed ranks and kept shooting. It was madness. It was beautiful. It was human. Meanwhile, on the surface of the Star Prime, evacuation transports lifted off one after another. The civilian population had been told that help was coming, and they had not believed it. The Concorde had abandoned them. Why would anyone else care? But then they saw the battle raging in orbit. They saw 17 tiny ships holding off an entire invasion fleet. They did not know who these strangers were, but they knew they were buying them time with their lives. A Dasari mother named Lyra held her 2 children close as their transport rose into the sky. Through the viewport, she could see explosions blooming in the darkness of space. She could see human ships burning and still fighting. "Who are they?" her daughter asked. "Humans," Lyra whispered. "They call themselves humans." She would never forget that name. Back in orbit, the battle had raged for 9 hours. The human fleet was battered and bleeding. The carrier's steadfast will had lost half its crew. 3 interceptors were gone completely. Every ship had damage, and many were running low on ammunition. But they had not broken. They had not retreated. And more importantly, they had not failed. Over 200 evacuation transports had escaped the Star Prime. Millions of civilians were now safely in hyperspace, heading for neutral territory. The Kovani had captured a world, but they had not captured its people. Vethkara stared at the damage reports in disbelief. He had lost 15 ships, 15, against an enemy that should have been destroyed in the first 5 minutes. His fleet was still strong enough to hold the planet, but his pride was shattered. What manner of species fights like this? He demanded. What kind of creatures throw themselves into certain death for strangers? No one could answer him. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, Lavra Mitchell slumped in her chair. She was exhausted. Her ship was barely holding together. Her crew had given everything they had, but they had done it. They had held the line. "Commander," Amy Torres said quietly, "I am detecting new contacts entering the system. It is the Concorde fleet, the Valkyrie and the Mordax. They are returning." Lavra almost laughed. Of course they were returning now, after the hard work was done. After humans had proven it was possible to stand up to the Corvani. "Signal them," she said. "Tell them the situation is under control. Tell them humanity sends its regards." The Concorde fleet arrived to find a battlefield littered with Corvani wreckage and 17 battered human ships still holding their position. They had expected to find nothing but debris and corpses. Instead, they found something that would change the galaxy forever. They found proof that humanity was not a minor species to be ignored. They found proof that courage mattered more than size or power. They found proof that humans never gave up. The news of what happened at the Star Prime spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every species, every world, every station heard the story. 17 human ships had defied the Galactic Concorde. They had fought an enemy 3 times their number. They had saved millions of lives while the great powers ran away. The reaction was mixed. Some called the humans heroes. Others called them reckless fools who had endangered galactic peace. The Valkyrie High Council issued a formal complaint, accusing Earth of acting without authorization. The Mordax Empire said nothing publicly, but their silence spoke volumes. Ambassador Eric Saunders had served humanity at the Galactic Concorde for 15 years. He was a quiet man, not tall or imposing, with graying hair and tired eyes. He had spent his career smiling at aliens who looked down on him, accepting insults disguised as compliments, and pretending that humanity was happy with its place at the bottom of the galactic hierarchy. He was done pretending. The Concorde assembly met in a massive chamber at the heart of a space station orbiting the Valkyrie homeworld. Representatives from over 100 species filled the curved rows of seats, their forms ranging from crystalline to insectoid to things that had no comparison in human experience. At the center of the chamber was a raised platform where speakers addressed the assembly. Eric Saunders walked to that platform alone. He wore a simple dark suit, nothing fancy, nothing designed to impress. He was not here to impress anyone. He was here to speak the truth. The Valkyrie High Arbiter, a being made of living crystal that shifted colors with its emotions, began the proceedings. Its voice echoed through translation devices worn by every delegate. The assembly recognizes the representative of Earth. You may speak. Eric looked around the chamber. He saw faces that had dismissed humanity for 2 centuries. He saw a species that had left 40 million people to die because they did not want trouble. He felt anger burning in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. 3 weeks ago, the Kovani Dominion invaded the Sara Prime, he began. This assembly was informed of the invasion. This assembly had the power to stop it. And this assembly chose to do nothing. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Valkyrie Arbiter's crystal body shifted to an angry red. The decision to withdraw was made through proper diplomatic channels. The risk of full-scale war was deemed too great. Too great for whom? Eric asked. Too great for the Valkyrie, certainly. Too great for the Mordax. But not too great for the 40 million civilians on the Sara Prime. They were willing to accept the risk. They had no choice. He paused, letting his words sink in. Humanity did not ask for permission to defend those people. We did not wait for a vote. We saw innocents in danger, and we acted. That is what we do. That is who we are. A Mordax delegate rose from his seat. Kethvorik was his name, a towering figure with leathery skin and 4 arms. He was an admiral in the Mordax fleet, respected and feared throughout the galaxy. The human action was militarily foolish, Kethvorik said. 17 ships against 50. Your casualties could have been total. You risked the lives of your crews on a battle you could not win. Eric turned to face him directly. We could not win? Admiral, when the Concord fleet finally arrived at the Sara Prime, they found 17 human ships still fighting. They found over 200 evacuation transports safely away. They found 15 Corvani warships destroyed. He let that number hang in the air. We lost good people in that battle. We lost ships. We lost friends. But we did not lose our honor. We did not abandon strangers to slavery and death because the math did not work in our favor. The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates shouted at each other. Some defended the Concord's decision. Others demanded to know why the great powers had retreated. It was chaos. Eric waited for quiet to return, then continued. Humanity has been part of this Concord for 200 years. In all that time, we have followed every rule. We have accepted every insult. We have bowed our heads and stayed in our place because we thought that was the price of peace. He shook his head slowly. We were wrong. Peace bought with cowardice is not peace. It is a surrender. And humanity does not surrender. Not to the Corvani. Not to fear. Not to anyone. The Valkyrie Arbiter's colors shifted rapidly, showing confusion and frustration. What do you want, Ambassador? An apology? A medal? You broke Concord protocols. You acted without authority. There must be consequences. Eric smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Consequences? You want to talk about consequences? Let me tell you about consequences. Because of what happened at the Sara Prime, the Kovani Dominion now knows that the Galactic Concord will not fight. They know that when they invade, the great powers will run away. How long before they come back with a larger fleet? How long before they target a Valkyrie colony? A Mordax outpost? He pointed at the assembled delegates. You think you bought safety by retreating. You bought nothing. You showed weakness. And in this galaxy, weakness gets you killed. Kethvorik spoke again, his voice thoughtful. The human has a point. The Dominion respects only strength. By withdrawing, we may have invited future aggression. Other delegates began to murmur in agreement. Even some Velthari were shifting colors that suggested doubt. Eric pressed his advantage. Humanity is not asking to lead the Concord. We are not asking for power or territory or recognition. We are asking you to remember why this organization exists. It was founded to protect all species, not just the powerful ones. It was founded on the principle that civilized people do not abandon each other in times of crisis. He straightened his posture and spoke with quiet intensity. We will continue to act according to that principle. If the Gravani threaten another world, we will respond. If any species needs help, we will come. You can condemn us. You can expel us from the Concord. But you cannot make us abandon who we are. The chamber fell silent. Eric Saunders, the quiet ambassador who had smiled through insults for 15 years, had just challenged the entire galactic order. He had told the most powerful species in existence that humanity would not play by their rules anymore. After the assembly adjourned, Kethvorik approached Eric in the corridor outside the chamber. The Mordax admiral towered over the human, his forearms crossed in what might have been a gesture of respect or threat. Your words were bold, Ambassador. Perhaps too bold. Many in this assembly will now see humanity as a problem to be solved. Eric met his gaze without flinching. Then let them try to solve us. We have faced extinction before. We survived. We will survive again. Kethvorik studied him for a long moment, then made a sound that might have been a laugh. Your people are either very brave or very stupid. I have not yet decided which. Eric smiled genuinely for the first time that day. We get that a lot. The Mordax turned to leave, then paused. For what it is worth, human, I wish my people had not retreated. The decision was made by politicians, not warriors. Some of us remember what honor means. He walked away, leaving Eric alone with his thoughts. The speech at the Concord Assembly was broadcast across 1,000 worlds. On Earth, people watched their ambassador stand up to the galaxy and felt something they had not felt in a long time. Pride on the Sara Prime. Survivors of the evacuation gathered around screens to hear the man who represented their rescuers. Many of them wept. Many of them made promises to themselves that they would never forget what humanity had done for them. And in the dark spaces between stars, the Golvani Dominion received word of what had happened. Emperor Zethrak read the reports with growing fury. A minor species had humiliated his fleet. A primitive race had defied his might. He would not let this stand. He would crush Earth and everyone who stood with them. But that was a problem for another day. For now, humanity had won a victory that mattered more than any battle. They had won respect. They had won attention. They had proven that they were not a species to be ignored. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. In the months following the Battle of the Sara Prime, something strange began to happen. Ships from distant worlds started appearing in Earth orbit. Not warships, not invasion fleets, just small vessels, carrying representatives from species that humanity had never met. They all came with the same message. We saw what you did, and we want to stand with you. Admiral Laura Mitchell, now promoted after her actions at the Sara Prime, stood in the observation deck of Earth Station 1, watching another alien vessel dock. This one carried delegates from the Keth, a nomadic species that had wandered the stars for millennia without ever finding a home. That makes 17 species this month, said Captain Samuel Rivara, a new second in command. He was a younger man, steady and reliable, with a talent for seeing problems before they became disasters. And more are coming every day. Laura shook her head in wonder. We spent 200 years begging the Concord for scraps of respect. We fight one battle, and suddenly everyone wants to be our friend. It is not about the battle, Samuel said. It is about what the battle meant. These species, they have all been ignored by the great powers. They have all been told they do not matter. And then they saw us, a minor race just like them, stand up and fight for strangers. They saw that it was possible to be small and still make a difference. The Keth delegate was named Zara, a thin being with silver skin and large dark eyes. She had traveled for 3 months to reach Earth, crossing territories controlled by species that would have destroyed her ship if they knew where she was going. The Keth have never had allies, Zara said when she met with Laura. We are travelers, outsiders. The great powers tolerate us because we are useful as messengers and traders. But they have never treated us as equals. And you think humanity will be different? Laura asked. Zara tilted her head, a gesture that might have been a smile. At the Zara Prime, your ships protected evacuation transports carrying Keth refugees. Your pilots died so that our people could live. No one has ever done that for us before. Laura remembered the battle. She remembered watching interceptors explode, knowing that each explosion meant 12 human lives lost. She had not known there were Keth on those transports. She had not cared what species the refugees were. They were people in danger, and that was enough. We did not save your people because we wanted something in return, Laura said carefully. We saved them because it was the right thing to do. Zara's dark eyes seemed to glow with emotion. Yes, that is exactly why we are here. Because you did not ask what was in it for you. Because you acted from conscience, not calculation. The Keth would like to offer our services to Earth, our navigational knowledge, our communication networks, our friendship. It was the first of many such conversations, though the Sari came next. Their world had been occupied by the Corvani, but millions of their people had escaped thanks to human sacrifice. They pledged eternal gratitude and offered agricultural technology that could feed colonies on barren worlds. The Rin came, a warrior species that had been subjugated by the Mordak centuries ago. They were not many, but they were fierce, and they had never forgotten their pride. They saw in humanity a kindred spirit. The Voskang, scientists and engineers who had been dismissed by the Volthri as intellectual inferiors. They brought knowledge of energy systems and ship design that made human engineers weep with joy. One by one, the forgotten species of the galaxy found their way to Earth, and one by one, Laura Mitchell welcomed them. We need a name for this, Samuel said during one of their planning meetings. An alliance, a compact. Something that tells the galaxy who we are and what we stand for. Laura thought about it for a long time. She thought about the Battle of the Sara Prime. She thought about the species gathering around Earth, each one bringing their own history of being overlooked and ignored. She thought about what bound them all together. The Terran Compact, she said finally. We are not an empire. We do not demand tribute or obedience. We are simply a group of species that have agreed to stand together, to help each other, to make sure that no one gets left behind. The name stuck. Within a year, the Terran Compact had grown to include 37 species. They were not the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. They did not have the Velthari's technology or the Mordax's numbers. But they had something that the great powers lacked. They had unity. When a compact world was threatened, ships from a dozen species would respond. When a member needed resources, others would share. When disagreements arose, they were settled through discussion, not force. It was a new way of doing things, and many in the galaxy said it could not last. But it did last. Because the members of the compact believed in something bigger than themselves. Laura Mitchell was named the first Supreme Commander of Compact Forces. She had not wanted the job. She was a ship captain, not a politician. But the other species had insisted. "You showed us the way," Zara of the Keth had said. "It is only right that you lead us forward." Laura's first act as Supreme Commander was to establish a clear set of principles for the compact. They were simple rules, written in plain language so that anyone could understand them. First, no member species would be asked to sacrifice their identity or independence. The compact was an alliance of equals, not a hierarchy. Second, no member would be abandoned in times of crisis. If one was attacked, all would respond. Third, the compact would not seek war, but it would not flee from it either. Aggression would be met with unified resistance. Fourth, the doors of the compact were open to any species that shared its values. Size and power did not matter, only character. These principles were broadcast across the galaxy. The Valkyrie dismissed them as naive. The Mordax said they were impractical. But other species who had never dared to hope for a place in galactic affairs, listened with growing interest. Meanwhile, the Corvani Dominion was not idle. Emperor Zethric had been humiliated by what happened at the Sar Prime. He had expected an easy conquest and instead had lost ships to a species he had never heard of. His advisors told him to wait, to rebuild his forces, to choose his next target carefully. Zeth Rak did not want to wait. He wanted revenge. Intelligence reports began reaching the compact. Corvani fleets were massing on the borders of neutral space. Supply lines were being established. Troop transports were being loaded. "They are coming for us," Samuel Rivera said grimly, studying the reports. "Not just Earth. They want to destroy the compact before it grows too strong." Lavra looked at the tactical display, showing the estimated size of the Corvani force. It was enormous. 300 warships supported by carriers and troop transports and supply vessels. It was the largest fleet the Dominion had ever assembled. Against that force, the Terran compact could muster perhaps 100 ships. Most were small. Many were obsolete. The odds were worse than they had been at the Sara Prime. "We cannot win a straight fight," Lavra admitted. "Not against those numbers." "Then we do not fight straight," Samuel replied. "We fight our way. The human way. We use speed and coordination and stubbornness. We make them pay for every light year they advance." Lavra smiled despite herself. "You sound like Nathan Cole. Captain Cole taught me well. Before he lost his ship at the Sara, he said something I have never forgotten. He said that humans do not know how to quit. He said it is our greatest weakness and our greatest strength." Lara nodded slowly. Nathan had survived the battle, barely. He was still recovering from his injuries, but his spirit was unbroken. He had already requested command of a new ship. "Contact all compact members," Lavra ordered. "Tell them the storm is coming. Tell them to prepare. What should I say when they ask if we can win?" Lavra stood and walked to the viewport. Outside, stars burned in the eternal darkness. Somewhere out there, an enemy was gathering to destroy everything they had built. "Tell them the truth," she said. "Tell them we do not know if we can win. But tell them this as well. We will fight. Every ship, every species, every soul that believes in what the compact stands for will stand together against the darkness. And even if we fall, we will fall fighting. We will fall with our honor intact. We will fall in a way that the galaxy will never forget." Samuel saluted. "I will tell them, Commander." As he left, Lavra remained at the viewport, watching the stars. The Corvani were coming with all their might. The great powers of the Concord would likely watch from the sidelines, waiting to see who won. But humanity would not wait. Humanity would not watch. Humanity would do what it had always done when faced with impossible odds. It would take a stand. The Corvani fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Thesara system. Emperor Zethrak had chosen this location deliberately. It was here that his forces had been humiliated. It was here that he would erase that shame forever. 300 warships, spread across the darkness of space like a swarm of predators. Behind them came carriers loaded with fighters, transports packed with soldiers, and supply vessels carrying enough resources to sustain a war that could last for years. It was the mightiest force the Dominion had ever assembled. Zethrak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, watching his fleet take formation. He was massive, even by Kavani standards, his scaled hide scarred from decades of battle. He had personally killed 100 enemies in close combat. He feared nothing in the universe. Sensors are detecting enemy vessels ahead, his tactical officer reported. Approximately 100 ships. Mixed configurations. They are holding position near the Sara Prime. Zethrak bared his teeth in what passed for a smile among his species. 100 against 300. They are brave, I will give them that. But bravery does not win wars. Power wins wars. Your orders, Emperor? Advance. Destroy them all. Leave nothing but debris. The Kovanni fleet began its approach. On the bridge of the Unity, the flagship of the Terran Compact, Admiral Lara Mitchell watched the enemy come. The tactical display showed the overwhelming numbers they faced. Every captain in the fleet could see the same thing. Every crew member knew the odds. No one ran. All ships, this is Admiral Mitchell. Lara broadcast on the fleet-wide channel. The enemy believes that numbers are everything. They believe that we will break and scatter when we see their strength. They are wrong. She paused, looking around her own bridge. She saw human faces and alien faces. Desari and Keth and Rin and Voss, all serving together, all ready to fight. Today we are not humans or Desari or Keth. Today we are the Compact. Today we prove that unity is stronger than tyranny. That courage is stronger than cruelty, that hope is stronger than fear. Every species in this fleet has been told they do not matter. Every one of us has been dismissed and ignored by the great powers. Today, we show the galaxy who we really are. The channel crackled with responses. Cheers from human crews. Battle cries from Rin warriors. Quiet prayers from the Sari chaplains. The sound of 100 ships preparing to face death together. Helm, Lara said. Take us forward. All ships, engage at will. The Terran Compact fleet surged toward the enemy. Captain Nathan Cole commanded the Valiant Heart. A new Interceptor-class vessel built with technology from 3 different species. He had spent months recovering from the wounds he suffered at the first Battle of the Sara Prime. The doctors had told him he should retire. He had laughed in their faces. Squadron leaders, form on me, he ordered. We are going after their command ships. If we can disrupt their coordination, we give our bigger vessels a chance. His squadron was made up of ships from 6 different species. Their designs were all different. Their crews spoke different languages, but they flew together like they had been training for years. That was the magic of the Compact. When you believed in something, differences stopped mattering. The Kovanni met the Compact charge with overwhelming firepower. Space filled with plasma bursts and kinetic rounds and missile trails. Ships on both sides began to burn. Lara Mitchell watched the battle unfold on her tactical display. It was chaos. Beautiful, terrible chaos. Human ships weaving between Corvani cruisers. Rin fighters swarming enemy carriers. Keth vessels coordinating strikes with the Sari support craft. We are taking heavy casualties, Samuel Rivara reported from his station. The Steadfast Dawn is gone. The Keth vessel Wandering Star is badly damaged. Keep fighting, Lara ordered. Every second we hold them here is a second the galaxy sees that we will not break. And the galaxy was watching. Throughout the Concord, species that had expected a quick Kovanni victory stared at their view screens in disbelief. The compact was not just fighting. The compact was winning engagements. Small ships with mixed crews were outmaneuvering mighty warships. Unity was doing what raw power could not. On the observation deck of the Valkyrie High Orbiter Station, the crystalline leaders of the oldest civilization in the galaxy watched the battle. With colors shifting through emotions they could not name. They should have been destroyed in the first hour. One of them sighed. Perhaps we underestimated them. Another replied. In the Mordak's Fleet Command Center, Admiral Kethvorak studied the same battle with growing admiration. He remembered the human ambassador's words at the Concord Assembly. He remembered saying that he wished his people had not retreated. They are dying out there, his second officer said. Both sides are taking terrible losses. Kethvorak nodded slowly. Yes, but the humans are dying for something they believe in. The Kovani are dying for an emperor's wounded pride. That is the difference. That has always been the difference. He made a decision that would change history. Signal the fleet, he ordered. We are moving to engage the Kovani. His officers stared at him in shock. Admiral, we have no authorization from the High Command. The Concord voted to remain neutral. Then the High Command can court-martial me later. Today, I remember what honor means. The Mordak's fleet, 37 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy, jumped to hyperspace. Nathan Cole's squadron had reached the Kovani command formation. The Valiant Heart's shields were failing, and half its weapons were offline, but Nathan kept pushing forward. There, he called to his wingmates. The Eternal Conquest. That is the Emperor's flagship. If we can disable it, the whole fleet loses coordination. We do not have the firepower to destroy that thing, a Rin pilot responded. We do not need to destroy it. We just need to hurt it. All ships, concentrate fire on the communication array. Take away his ability to command. The surviving ships of Nathan's squadron dove toward the massive flagship. Kovani point defense weapons filled the space around them with deadly fire. Ships exploded. Pilots died. But the survivors kept coming. The Valiant Heart was hit twice in the final approach. Nathan felt the ship shudder around him. Alarm screamed. His helmsman was dead, slumped over a console. He pushed her body aside with a whispered apology and took the controls himself. All weapons, fire on my mark, he broadcast. Give them everything. 6 ships unleashed their remaining ordnance at the Eternal Conquest's communication tower. The explosions tore through the structure, sending debris spinning into space. On his bridge, Emperor Zethrak felt his ship lurch and heard his officers shouting about communication failures. What is happening? He demanded. Our fleet coordination is disrupted, Emperor. We have lost contact with the outer formations. Zethrak roared in fury. Across the battlefield, Kovani ships that had been moving in perfect synchronization began to hesitate, unsure of their orders. It was a small advantage, but it was enough. And then the Mordaks arrived. 37 warships dropped out of hyperspace, directly behind the Kovani fleet. Admiral Kethvorak had chosen his position perfectly. The enemy was caught between two forces, their coordination shattered. Their emperor screening useless commands into a broken communication system. Laura Mitchell saw the new signatures appear on her display and could not believe her eyes. The Mordaks. They came. Admiral, Samuel said, his voice shaking with emotion. We are receiving a transmission from the Mordak's flagship of Vorax. Voice filled the bridge of the Unity. Terran Compact Forces. This is Admiral Kethvorak of the Mordak's Empire. We have watched from the sidelines long enough. Today, we remember what honor means. Today, we stand with you. The combined force of Compact and Mordak ships tore into the Kovani fleet from both sides. The enemy formation, already disrupted by Nathan's attack, collapsed completely. Ships fled in all directions. Some tried to surrender. Others fought to the death. Emperor Zithrak stood alone on his broken bridge, watching his mighty armada come apart. He had come to destroy humanity and their allies. He had come to teach them a lesson about power. Instead, they had taught him a lesson about something else. About determination. About unity. About the strength that comes from fighting for something beyond yourself. His flagship was boarded by Rin warriors who had not forgotten their centuries of rage against conquerors. Zethrak died fighting, as he had always expected to. But his empire died with him. When the battle finally ended, the Kovani dominion was finished. Their fleet was scattered, their emperor was dead, and their remaining territories would soon fall to species. They had once enslaved. Laura Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Unity, exhausted beyond words, but filled with something that felt like light. They had won. Against all odds, against every expectation, they had won. The Galactic Concord would never be the same. The Mordax had broken with the old order by joining the fight. The Velthari could no longer pretend that staying neutral was wisdom instead of cowardice. A new era was beginning. In the weeks that followed, the Terran Compact became the foundation of a reformed galactic community. Species that had once competed and fought now worked together, inspired by the example humanity had set. It was not perfect. Nothing ever is. But it was better than what came before. Admiral Laura Mitchell eventually retired to Earth, where she spent her remaining years teaching young officers about the values that mattered.